Hello, college football fans, and welcome to I don't even know which episode it is, but our Week 7 preview and picks. This is the Talk-Ons show. You got your hosts, Seth Big L, and, I'm the wonderful offensive coordinator of the Oklahoma Sooners. And then we have my
Scoopity
co
whoop
host here.
and score.
There you
Scoopity
go.
whoop and score.
AKA Cam and Chase. Me being Chase, him being Cam. So we got gonna try and actually keep this one short. Just gonna do our preview and picks today. A lot of good games this weekend.
Oh
Which
yeah.
obviously I'm sure everybody knows what everybody thinks is the game of the week. So I'm sure we can all agree, but we'll get to that. Your turn to talk.
Okay, so yeah, as he said, we're gonna try and keep this short and sweet today. Hopefully this will be our shortest episode ever.
We say that every
Uh,
single time.
every single time we say it, but we're pros, we're patriots, we're objectively right all the time. So it's
And
gonna
we're
happen this time.
yappers.
Yeah, but we're gonna yap fast.
We're
We're gonna
passionate. We're yappers and very passionate football fans. So
we're very passionately opinionated, and that might come back to
I think you
bite us
mean
eventually.
factionated or whatever it would be, whatever the word.
Factionated. You're right. You're right because I forgot we're objectively right. Um,
Always, everything. We've never been wrong about anything we've ever said on this episode ever.
but yeah, picks and previews this week for Week 7. Big old games. We're just going to focus on the big games, the more interesting games. A couple of ones that are just kind of worth talking about. We're not going to go over like the whole lineup like we tried to last time because it just took a little too long. Um, so we're just kind of simplifying it this episode. But yeah, I mean, I guess we can jump right into it. Just hanging around. Um, so, would you like to go first?
Uh, sure. What game do we want to do first?
Why don't we just start with Vanderbilt and Kentucky? I mean, they're both
Okay.
unranked in the AP, but this is an interesting game.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised at the line. I'm amazed that the line is two scores. I can't believe that Kentucky's favored by two scores, especially after Vanderbilt beating Alabama. But you know, I guess Vegas knows something we don't. So
I mean, upsets can always be isolated incidents.
I guess that's what they feel is that it's just a one-time upset. I don't per se. I think Vanderbilt is a good team. I think that Kentucky is going to be prepared, though. I think it's the opposite. I don't think Alabama thought Vanderbilt was going to go in and be a good team. I think Kentucky will at least be expecting it now and is going to be in Lexington. But I guess first we'll go over things. First off, Vanderbilt's not going to run on Kentucky like they ran on Alabama. I don't think that's going to happen. Kentucky's
Probably not.
always, no matter what the year is, what season, they've always got a stout rushing defense.
It's in their
Stoops,
identity.
yeah. So it's the physicality of the Kentucky football
It's
team,
always
because that's what
Kirby's always
everybody
talking about
talks
that
about how physical
physicality.
Kentucky is. You
Physicality,
can't ever
man.
hear. I mean, that's Kirby Smart.
Whatever.
That's all he says all week. This is a physical football team. Physical football team. Physical football team. So hopefully Vanderbilt's got that physicality within them. So
Yeah, maybe.
I know Diego Pavia does. Um, he's got that physicality. He was running hard against Alabama. I think Vanderbilt's actually going to keep this one close. Um, but yeah, I don't. They're not going to run like they did, but I still think they have a good enough passing like attack with Pavia. He was able to really keep the ball moving forward and really control drives. Um, I will say though, Brock Vandegrift has played better.
Sorry, peeps. We're having some technical difficulties. Seth Big L is having a big L with his mic headset, so um, I think he's got it all straightened up. Seth Big L, are you there with us now?
Yes, I am here.
Ah,
I
he's
am here,
back.
scoopity whoop and score.
Scoopity whoop and
Okay.
score.
But as I was saying, with Kentucky, Brock Vandergriff has played much better. He obviously played, Kentucky's coming off a big win into a bye. Hopefully, that doesn't mean any kind of complacency. I doubt it will. I think they're going to continue rolling on a streak. I don't see Vanderbilt really producing the run game against Kentucky like they did. So it's going to force Pavia to really get the ball downfield. I think he will successfully to some degree, but I think the Kentucky defense is going to be too much. I think the environment's going to be too much in Lexington. So I'm going to take Kentucky to win. I don't think they're going to cover, though. I think Vanderbilt will keep it within a score game. I don't think uh, Kentucky wins by any more than like 10. So, but people should be aware that I think this will be a good game. So
So you said it was you, how much you had him winning by?
I think they're going to win. I think Kentucky wins. I think they win by like 10, probably.
All right, so you heard it here, folks. Seth Big L makes a Big L prediction. Um, he's got Kentucky beating Vanderbilt by 10. I think it's going to be a good offense versus a really good defense. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Me personally, I think if Vanderbilt can manage to take the lead, they might have a chance to finish it. But
I don't think Vanderbilt's defense is good enough because I know like Alabama's like all like I know their offense is super high powered, but I mean they still scored 35 points within like 17 minutes of possession. So,
I
and I
don't think
know, I
Kentucky's
mean, like,
offense is all that capable. But I mean, Brock's been getting better, and I mean they've been finding their identity. So I mean, we'll
yeah,
take
but
your
if you
word
give
for it.
any openings to Brock, I think Brock can definitely hit the big enough openings to really like split the game open. So, I
Fair
still
enough.
don't
We'll
think it's going
see.
to be a very high scoring game though. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
I
looking
think
maybe
the
27-17, probably something like that. Like if I don't want to ever give direct score predictions because those are nearly impossible to get right, and it's going to make you look stupid. But that's at least the ballpark I'm looking at. Winning
well for
team
anybody.
scores between 24 to 30, probably. Losing team scores between 14 to 20. So
Fair enough, I guess. But for anybody wondering why we decided to cover Vanderbilt and Kentucky, I think yes, we're giving Vanderbilt a little extra attention because they upset Alabama, but I think it's interesting. There's a lot of questions surrounding Vanderbilt and Kentucky, and I think this game for both of those teams will help answer some questions. So,
I don't know
uh,
because then it's like if Kentucky blows Vanderbilt out, is it like, oh, Vanderbilt's just back to being a crappy team? Or is it, oh, well,
I mean,
Kentucky's
either
actually
that or it's
really
just more
good?
reaffirming that Kentucky's a good team this year. Because I
Yeah,
think
but I don't think
Vanderbilt's a good
anybody's going to
team
give
this year.
Kentucky their
So,
flowers. If Kentucky blows out Vanderbilt, they're just going to say, oh, it is Vanderbilt.
well,
But anyways,
they can get scoopity whoop and scored on. Moving
all
on.
it's going to be is, oh, it was a fluke. All right.
All right. So next we can talk about. I'll talk about Penn State going to USC, going to good old LA Coliseum. Okay, so Penn State. Um, we like to talk about how they're preseason princess. They're always highly rated. They get, I feel like they're overrated a lot of the times
I want them
historically.
to lose. Just saying.
Um, I mean, I don't know if I want that per se. I
I
mean,
don't
it would be
care.
interesting. I mean, I think the AP putting Penn State above Georgia is kind of dumb, but um, but I think Penn State and Georgia play, but this isn't about anyway. This isn't about Penn State and Georgia. It's about Penn State and USC. I think USC. We got a lot of questions about USC. Very wishy washy team this year. And they turned out to not exactly be what everybody thought they were going to be. So I think they're still a dangerous team. I think they're still capable of beating good teams and pulling off an upset, like against Penn State. Um, and they have surprisingly, they have a pretty decent defense. Their offense is kind of like one day they show up, one day they don't. I mean, their defense is pretty decent. Uh, they've held their opponents' scoring average in a pretty decent range, and I mean they're USC is they're a pretty good team. Um, Penn State, I will say, I think Penn State's offense and defense are kind of like both B plus grade for me, because Penn State, their offensive line, I'll give them credit. Their offensive line looks great. Like they got a really good offensive line from what I've seen. Um, best reference point is Illinois. That's their best win, but their offensive line was, immovable against Illinois. Aller had all day to throw. The run game had holes all over the field, so, and that's their pass game is not strong. I mean, Tyler Warren, they've got him, but I think that's and Saunders at wide receiver, but Saunders is questionable for this game. Um, and surprisingly, Singleton, uh, their starting running back, he is probable for this game. I assume he's going to play though. They have Allen right by him. Both of those are great running backs. They have a really good duo in the backfield. Penn State's passing game is not really all that great. It's not all that potent. Their rushing game is pretty good, pretty stout. Their defense, I think Penn State's secondary is the weak point. Um, they definitely have a good pass rush. They got a good pass rush. They got a good rushing defense on the D line. Penn State has a really good defensive front. Um, so talking about USC, I give them a B on offense, and a C on defense. Um, they,
I'd give them probably a C in offense and a B in defense. They flipped the script, in my opinion. I think their defense is better
yeah,
than their offense.
I think this year that's fair enough to say. Which what I was saying earlier kind of would support that. So yeah, we'll flip it and say C offense, B defense. But USC, I mean Miller Moss, he's all right when he's got good protection. Um, you know, their O line, that's the big question though. Their O line is a little sussy. I don't think they have a very good O line, and pair that against Penn State's defensive line and their pass rush. I think Miller Moss, they're going to be all in his face, all over him. They're going to take him down multiple times in this game. He's going to be running for his life, more or less. Um, they have a decent rushing defense, but um, Siri, get out of here.
I don't know. The biggest issue I would mention for like talk
Sorry,
about
Siri.
rushing
My
defense, USC let Michigan rush for what like 200 yards or something on them. So that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah, I mean against good opponents that can rush pretty decently, they seem to have a hard time. I mean, I think if USC can manage to get the ball in the air and Miller Moss can play good, I think they'll have a chance. But at the same time, I just think I don't know. I think Penn State's winning this one. Um, I'll take them. I think USC is capable of winning, but I don't think USC has their stuff together enough. And I mean, maybe they will in this game. But I think Penn State's defense and rushing attack is going to win this game,
Yeah.
and I think they're going to win it. Uh, I say Penn State wins by 6. I've got Penn State winning this game by 6 points at the least. So that's
All
where we
right.
stand. Do I think Penn State is number 4 in the nation, as according to the AP? No. but I think they are still top 10 worthy. And we'll see what happens. I want to see what they can do against USC because that'll
It's
be
the
really the
un
best opponent they've played so far. I
it's the
mean, in terms
unbeaten
of
it's the unbeaten logic, man. They don't wanna go by
caliber
the
of
fact that, like, it's like they don't go by caliber of opponents. I don't think Penn State's really beaten anybody worth, throwing a stick at.
Illinois is a good team this year, but I think
Yeah, but,
USC
like,
has
I
more
think
talent
I
to
think you
work
put
with.
Clemson against you talk about wins, it's like, we don't wanna bring up Georgia, but they're the team directly below Penn State. It's like Georgia's got the best win between Penn State, and them. It's like
In
Penn
terms of
State's
talent, yeah, but
so, I mean, but I digress. So,
all right. So that's what we're thinking about Penn State and this USC team. USC pulling off the upset, very possible. I don't think Penn State has that much of an edge over USC where it just can't happen. But USC's offense is going to have to play a really good game. But that's that. So moving on to the next one, fellas. What you got next?
so this one, I this is one of those that I think has potential to like go in two directions, and this is Kansas State. They're at Colorado, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kansas State at Colorado. Um, I definitely so Kansas State's favored, and I think they should be.
interesting game for
Um,
Colorado. A lot of
it's an
questions around
interesting
that
game for
program.
Colorado because this is
Questions for
definitely
Kansas
like
State.
their game to show, like, hey, like we are finally up here. We are worthy of being a ranked team. We're worthy of getting the attention and the love that we get.
And
Um,
they're 2-0 in Big 12 play so far. So
they're
this will
undefeated.
be
So
their
this is sort of
biggest
like
test yet.
this is them trying to keep you know their spot and keep the high chances for the Big 12 championship against, I think, one of the better teams in the Big 12.
And it'll help us gauge where Kansas State stands because they're kind
Um,
of on the fence right now.
well, I can tell you one thing that's not looking good for Colorado at all is that, again, we always talk about their line, their D line, not very good. O line, not very good. Better, much better than they were last season, but still not very good. Shadur Sanders is still running for his life. There's still teams running all over Colorado's defense. So, and obviously, that's not a good weakness to have when you're playing Kansas State, you know. So, because Giddens is going to just probably, I think, gash that defense. So, um, and I don't know. I think this one's going to be a high scoring game because I don't, BYU putting 38 on Kansas State makes me very confident that Colorado can put a good bit on Kansas State as well because they do have a high-powered offense. They've got offensive stars everywhere. I mean, obviously, I could just right off the top of the head, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, of course. I mean, literally noted as one of the best players in the country. They just got immense talent on the edge, so um, I just I just don't know if I have faith in that defense though. Even the pass defense with all the stars they have on, I just don't have faith in it. So, um,
Oh,
but
don't do the Buffaloes like that, bruh.
I don't know, man. I like them. I like Dion. I want Colorado to do well, and they're doing well. This is the best season they've had. Well, I don't know. They started 3-0 last season, so but 4-1 I think is still better than what they did. They finished 4-8. I don't see them losing seven straight. Um, I don't think they win this one though. I think Kansas State takes this one because I think Kansas State just has the edge in the run game, and they're going to have the better defense as well. I think, but I think I like the line. It's 3.5. I think I like Colorado to cover that. I think Kansas State only wins by a field goal. So I
Really?
think they're able to keep it close because of crowd noise. There's going to be at Colorado, but I think Kansas State is going to overwhelm them with the run game and, maybe pull out a game winning touchdown drive or something, to pull out that field goal or just drive the ball down and win off of a field goal, a final play field goal. So, I think that's what I go with for the Kansas State Cats, the Kitty Cats.
So, what do you think
Beat
it
the
means for
Bucs.
Kansas State if they beat Colorado? Especially, let's say they beat Colorado big. You think Kansas State is back in the conversation?
Um. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're still in the conversation. They've only got one loss, and it's so they've only got one loss in the Big 12, and that's BYU. And then after that, it's like, they get this win. Now, this thing is like Colorado is second. That puts Kansas State right back in the running. They just beat Oklahoma State. So that's one team they no longer have to worry about in their way of the Big 12 championship. So it's like, as long as they can just keep it going, and just win the games they need to, because I think if they beat Colorado, that leaves only one team, and that is BYU, that's undefeated in the Big 12. So,
Yeah. Well, no, you got Texas Tech and Iowa State. So,
oh yeah,
and Texas
completely
Tech
forgot
is
about
3-0 in
Texas
Big
Tech.
12 play. I mean, Kansas State might need some folks to lose though to get
For
back
some
into
reason, I
the
thought Iowa
race for
State
the
had
Big
moved to the
12.
Big 10. I don't know why I thought that,
No, they're still
but
Big 12, which
anyways,
we'll talk about them.
yeah, I mean, it still puts them at chance. I mean, they're only one loss in the Big 12, so they still have very much so. If they blow Colorado out, then I think Kansas State is definitely a much better team and have gotten much better since that loss to BYU. But I don't see them blowing Colorado out. So
Hmm. Nah, maybe I don't know. I think Kansas State's offense is up and down. I think Kansas State definitely has the edge in the trenches, and that can make all the difference. So, but for
yeah,
this
but
game,
Shadur Sanders has had games where he's been sacked 4 or 5 times and still put up 400 passing yards. So
I mean, yeah, that's true. So we'll
you know,
see. It's
we'll
This is an
see.
interesting game. It's why we're talking about it because there's a lot of questions around Colorado, the headliner program out there, all over the media, and Kansas State, obviously a team on the fence. So we picked this game because it's another interesting matchup of hey, this could answer questions for either one of these teams moving forward. But on to the
All
next.
right, next game.
All right, so you covered. Guess I got to move on to my next one, which will be Uh, the Red River rivalry. Cowboys, schooners, shoot off guns, pow pow. Yes, Texas versus Oklahoma in the
The
Red
Red
River
River rivalry.
rivalry. The Red River rivalry. you, you heard it here, folks.
There ain't no way my Sooners are taking down the long, or there ain't no way the Sooners are taking down my long.
You take that, but don't you ever let that word come out of your mouth again. Anyway, so Texas and Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry. That's kind of a tongue twister. Anyway, this game, one of the biggest games of the year, mainly because of the implications of the rivalry, and also, because Texas is, Oklahoma is always that potentially the thorn in the side that can make it really hard for a
Yeah.
great Texas team.
Well,
They almost kept Texas
yeah.
out of the playoffs last year,
It's
but
also Texas's first true test, I think. So
and that's a big thing to mention is Texas has played nobody yet. So even though people say Texas is the only real like one of the only teams with no questions to be asked, I don't know, man. You got questions because they haven't played anybody. So
I think the
um
argument that there's a team with no questions is just false. Every team has questions because the only
right.
undefeateds haven't played anybody. And,
Yep.
it's like the ones who have lost, they have bigger questions, obviously, because it's like, okay, well, why'd you lose? You have a lot of problems you need to fix in those losses. But it's like Texas and Ohio State, you don't see anything that needs to be fixed. But, like, you don't know what is actually wrong yet because they haven't played a team that can really challenge their issues. So
And playing off of that,
expose them.
Oklahoma Oklahoma is definitely the first real defense Texas is going to play this year. Like Oklahoma's defense is really good. It's stout. Um, and I think it's going to give Texas a lot of challenges, especially on the front line, because Oklahoma's defensive front is really good, really competitive. Uh, Decent rushing defense, a really good pass rush. Um, Now, the thing about it is Oklahoma's offense is pretty bad. Like, it's not great.
Don't talk about my offense like that. I run it.
Well, it's a big L offense, my friend. It's they're here's the thing. Texas, I mean, not too much needs to be said about Texas. I mean, Ewers might be coming back. They might have, most likely, he's probable. They most likely have Quinn Ewers in this game. I don't see why they wouldn't put him in this game if he's healthy enough. Um,
That's what they
they have a
definitely need to
lot.
do.
They have a lot of running backs out, and I can't remember who Texas starting running back is, but Texas has three running backs that are either out, two are out, one is questionable. So it sounds like they're going to be a little thin at that position going into this game. Baxter, is that their starter?
I think Baxter is a starter, yeah, and then
He's out for this game. Christian Clark is out. So they're going to be thin in the run game, it seems. They're going to have to, unless they just happen to have a guy that breaks out and shows out behind them, they're going to have to rely on Quinn Ewers and the passing game,
yeah.
um, which is not a good situation to be in, to be one dimensional against a defense like Oklahoma's. Um, I think this is going to be.
Is let's see, is Jaden Blue playing though? Because he's been a really stout backup running back for them.
He's not on the injury report, so I would assume
Okay,
so.
so I mean they're probably going to be okay. I think in the run game.
But I think and you know, like I said, Oklahoma is going to be the best defense, best team Texas has played this year. Although they don't have a very capable offense, Texas's defense is pretty good. They're,
Yeah,
statistically they're really good. They haven't played anybody yet. They haven't really played an offense yet. So, I mean, truthfully, Oklahoma might even be the best. Even as bad as their offense is, they might even be the best offense that they've played yet.
I, I
So,
think I think I think Oklahoma has the capability to be a good offense. I think play calling and offensive line schemes are very just not good. And I guess that's what happens when you have a fullback coordinating your offense. Um, but
Bobo
you know,
Ball.
I think if they could just throw the playbook out and just play it right, I think they could really, really make this a tough game for Texas. I mean, because I
Well,
think they got a dual threat quarterback now. Oklahoma. He's been able to run the ball well. Um, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. They're getting some of their. I'm pretty sure they're getting some of their receivers. Oklahoma was missing literally their entire receiving core in the Auburn game. So
I
um,
mean, they've still got a lot of wide receivers out, and Deion Burks, arguably their best offensive player, he's questionable. So this Oklahoma, and we've known this. Oklahoma they've been eaten up by injuries all season up to
yeah,
this point. It's going to be on Oklahoma's defense. It's going to be on Oklahoma's defense, and the only way Oklahoma wins this, in my opinion, is takeaways. Oklahoma has been one of the best teams at taking the ball away. Texas, they've turned it over quite a few times and against not very good opponents. But then
that's going
again,
to be the thing. Is that Arch
I think it
Manning?
had a lot to do with Arch Manning being at the
I
helm.
think if Arch Manning's in there, Oklahoma is going to be sniffing out those turnovers, those picks, and they're going to be sniffing them
Can
out
they
hard.
get it from Quinn
So
Ewers though? Because they haven't that Texas offense hasn't played a defense like this. So I think the only way Oklahoma pulls it off is with takeaways. And if they can prevent Oklahoma's red zone offense and red zone defense has been good. Texas has one of the best red zone defenses. I think then again, we don't have very good reference points. But if they can, if Oklahoma can prevent big plays, if they can prevent explosive plays, which we'll see, um, if they can stay on Ewers, keep him running for his life, stay in his face, and they can get takeaways, I think Oklahoma will pull it off. But for now, I don't know, man. I don't think there's too many questions, ifs and buts with Oklahoma's offense and their injuries. I just you can't rely on takeaways at the end of the day. So I have to take Texas to win this one.
Do you think they'll cover?
Um, I think Texas. I would say that they'll pull away late in the game because Oklahoma's offense
The
won't be
down
able to give their
spiral.
defense a break. The defensive down spiral will take place, and I think Texas will. With that being said, I think Texas. I think they cover. I think they win by 14. I think they cover.
Okay.
I know the spread was 14.5, but I can't stand the half points. Like, no, it's 14. It's just 14, bro. So I say Texas takes this one by 14. So
Okay.
I hope Oklahoma pulls off the upset. I shouldn't say that because that's a little biased, but I think it would make a hell of an addition to what we've already gotten this season. And
I just hope it's a good
will
game because I really just this
it'll
has
keep
been an
the
incredible
SEC,
season so far.
yeah,
I've been
and it'll
amazed
keep
with
the
how good
SEC
this
very
season's been.
interesting.
I find it crazy how people talk about the playoff and how like games don't matter and how things are just different. But like this has been like this has been the closest to the 2007 season
Mm.
we've gotten so far. So, it's been I think it's been an incredible football season so far. So, and you know what? I'm not so sad that Georgia doesn't go in there and absolutely pummel teams by 45 points. It puts you on the edge of your seat as a fan now. It's like it makes you like watch the game and focus.
Seems to
It's
be
like
more competitive now.
yeah, it's like I wasn't sitting there just we're gonna clobber Auburn, and just absolutely Georgia's gonna just destroy Auburn. It's like no, like I mean we need to be prepared, and as a fan, like be able to watch and expect some crazy stuff to happen. So I
Next
I
game,
think I like it, So
we'll
all
see.
right.
You go, you
So next game
Scooters.
for me
Scooter bring the
is
shoes.
Iowa State at West Virginia. This one's a big deal because I think this is upset alert.
Uh oh.
I think we really need to be looking out for Iowa State because they're coming in here undefeated. They're ranked number 11,
Upset alert.
but they're going into West Virginia, who obviously not a super great team. They're 3-2, but they're going to West Virginia, and West Virginia has good wins. And I know, we never want to like talk about,
Good losses.
I guess a loss is never good per se, but I'd say they're like fairly good losses other than maybe Penn State. I know Penn State, but Penn State's good. I know they got blown out for the most part by Penn State, but Penn State is a top 5 team right now. So, and that was the very first game for West Virginia. So, and they lost to Pitt, another good team who's ranked currently. I think Pitt's always a solid team, and it was just a one-score game. So, but they've
They're,
beaten, but they just went and absolutely clobbered Oklahoma State
and they're both undefeated. And
At Oklahoma State. So,
Iowa State and West Virginia are both 2-0, undefeated in Big 12 play. So
yeah.
West Virginia's not out of the picture. Don't sleep on West Virginia. This is a decent team.
So I think it's
You know,
upset alert. And now the question is,
upset alert.
do I think that West Virginia is actually going to do the upset personally? I don't know. I definitely think that it's possible.
We really need a
But
sound effect board for stuff
yeah,
like
it's
this.
something that we'll get there at some point, But West Virginia, the quarterback has had a solid rating so far going in. Garrett Green is, he's not, it's not the greatest. I will say turnovers are still a problem. Sacks and turnovers are a problem for West Virginia, so that's something they're going to have to clean up. But you know, as far as I know, Iowa State isn't the most insanely adept in their front seven. So they
Their
got punished by
secondary is definitely
Iowa.
lackluster.
They got punished by Iowa for sure. Not to mention that they barely escaped Iowa. So, and I don't think Iowa's a good team. They never are, you know.
They have a
So,
decent. I think they're decent on the line of scrimmage, and they have a decent rush attack. But
well, Iowa's always got a good defense, but they
I think
just,
Iowa State's personally. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves on Iowa State. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't think this
but
game is really a marquee game for
um,
playoff implications. But
but West Virginia's got a good rushing attack.
it's important for the Big 12. I'll say that it's important for where Iowa State stands, which is why we just picked this game to cover because it's another one of those. Hey, is Iowa State the real deal? You know, West Virginia's West Virginia, but it's still because this is a very potential upset, as he was talking about.
Uh,
This is important for Iowa State. You know,
West Virginia's got three rushers who have broken over 1,000 yards, all averaging, I believe, somewhere like all are averaging over 5 yards a carry. One of them's averaging like 6.4 yards a carry. So West Virginia's got a good rushing attack. Um, Iowa State, not the great. I mean, not amazing in rushing defense. I guess it's not bad though. The rushing defense isn't terrible. Um,
this might be a
but
shootout though, because I don't think either
it
teams
could
have
be,
very
yeah.
capable defenses, and their offenses are capable enough. So, but then again, you know, West Virginia may only have the rushing attack, so it's they might be playing keep up maybe, but I don't know. I think this is a dangerous game. Me personally, I think this is a very dangerous game for Iowa State. Um,
Oh, for sure. I mean,
I agree with you, on the upset alert for sure. So, are you
uh,
taking West Virginia to pull off the upset?
hmm.
Andale, andale.
I think, yeah, I actually think, you know what? I'm going to take West Virginia to, I'm
Ah,
going to take West Virginia to win outright. So, I
by how much?
don't know if I want to give a score here. I think I'll just say they went outright. I think they just went outright by whatever score they went outright by, like maybe a field goal or so, So, but I think it could be very dangerous because I think Iowa State could really underestimate them, and West Virginia could just run all over them. So they need to be aware. They need to be wary of that for sure. So
So, Brother Chase, aka Seth Big L, has got West Virginia beating Iowa State by whatever, dude. It's an upset, and they're Patriots. So, West Virginia pulling off the upset. I agree. I think West Virginia is going to beat Iowa State. I think Iowa State is. I think they got a troubling game ahead of them, mainly because I think Iowa State's a little overrated right now, but also because I think West Virginia is underrated, and I think that's a dangerous place to play for a team like Iowa State right now. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be a booming atmosphere since it's a Big 12 game against an undefeated opponent. So I think the stadium's going to be rocking best it can for West Virginia. And I think it's going to be an environment Iowa State hasn't really been able to has actually been able to simulate yet. And I also think that it's just a rushing offense that they haven't played yet. That's going to really put it to them, I think. So,
we woo, we woo.
all
Upset
right, where does
alert.
that
All right,
put us
on
on
to the
the
next one.
games?
So, I think, all right, so you covered.
I believe it's Ole Miss at LSU is what you
Yeah,
wanted to
because you
cover, and
covered
then next
the
game of the
Vandy
week.
game, you covered the Colorado game, we just covered the Iowa State game, I covered Penn State, and the Texas game. So
Definitely Ole
now,
Miss at LSU. So let's like you were doing underlay. So
Ole Miss at LSU. Hell of a SEC matchup here we got this weekend. I'm gonna try to be quick with it because we're trying to keep it quicker than we're going. Um, Not making bad time though. But anyway, so Ole Miss at LSU. Just get to the point, okay? So Ole Miss is playing at Death Valley. That's an important thing to keep in mind. But also USC beat LSU in Death Valley. So questions about whether that makes that big of a difference for this year's LSU team. But because they already lost in Death Valley, that might give them the fire that they need to play their best game in Death Valley against Ole Miss. Will it be enough? I've got
I
old.
don't believe. No, yeah, they played on a neutral site, USC and LSU.
Did they?
Yes, actually, I believe they
Oh, I'm
played in
sorry.
Las Vegas, so they were actually
Right,
closer
right. It
to
was
USC. So
it was the opener game. I look at the schedule, uh the week game records, and I see the home and away team. It confused me. I completely forgot about that. My apologies, folks. Sorry, Tigers. You did not lose in Death Valley, but you still lost to USC. So, yeah.
who's not
But
that great anymore?
I think Death Valley is an important factor in this still, though. With that being said, but here's the thing: Ole Miss, um, even though they got upset by Kentucky, a Kentucky team that almost beat Georgia, who I believe is one of the top 5 teams in the country, um, you have Ole Miss statistically and against pretty decent opponents at this point. They've played pretty well. They put it to South Carolina, who is not really at this point has not really all that special per se. But I think they have a lot of there's different like matchups to talk about as far as like the sides of the ball that showed that South Carolina is a force to be reckoned with in certain aspects. But Ole Miss has one of the best uh, rushing defenses in the country. In fact, I think they're ranked number one in rushing defense statistically. Um, their pass rush is really good. Their pass rush looks immaculate. Surprisingly enough, I think Ole Miss has the defense to do it this year. Their offense, A plus. I mean, they've got a good rushing offense. Jackson Dart is on his stuff this year. That offense is crazy capable of doing some good
Yeah,
football.
I don't know. They played a
Um,
good defense in Kentucky though, and were shut down. So
well, and I think part of that was them getting caught off guard, more or less. Which one would say, okay, well, they seeing what they did to Georgia. How could you let Kentucky catch you off guard? But the best defense they played was Kentucky, and they scored what 17 points.
yeah, I mean, but that's not.
Georgia only scored 13.
And let's not
Um,
forget, it was also
and we're not
in
going to act
Ole
like
Miss.
Georgia. We're not going to act like Georgia doesn't have a very good, capable offense. So I think Kentucky. Let's give Kentucky credit for just having a really good defense this year. I still
Again, I
think
think
Ole Miss.
LSU has a solid defense. So
No, no, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. LSU's defense
okay,
is wishy washy. Uh, and I guess I'll move into that is Ole Miss's strength being their pass attack, their pass protection. They've got a great rushing defense, a great defensive front, good pass rush.
I don't trust Ole
LSU,
Miss's secondary against
well,
Nussmeyer and
I was getting to
Lacey.
that is their weakness. I've got their strengths and weaknesses. Their weakness is their pass
Mhm.
coverage. And moving to LSU in parallel, they've got a great pass attack, one of the best pass protection, you know, stat lines in college football. Nussmeyer is being very well protected, and we all know what Nussmeyer can do. He's a stud. He's a great quarterback. Give him time to throw. Give him good protection. Guys get open. They're going to cause damage. Um, but I think LSU's weakness is their pass defense. Their run defense is all right, but I think their pass defense is pretty wonky. Um, so here we have 2 teams where both of their biggest strengths is the pass attack and both of their biggest weaknesses is the pass defense. So what we have here, folks, is a shootout in the making. I think we have a shootout in Death Valley. Um, and honestly, I think just because of what Ole Miss is I think Ole Miss has a slight edge talent wise. The question could be who's the better quarterback. It could be a battle of the quarterbacks, Jackson Dart or Nussmeyer. I think Jackson Dart obviously has more of a dual threat dynamic going on, and Jackson Dart's playing his best football this year so far. So Nussmeyer looks great. I think these are two top caliber quarterbacks. And Jackson Dart, I believe, is number one in the SEC right now in QBR rating. So I think it's going to be a shootout. But I think eventually Ole Miss's pass rush, Ole Miss's defensive front, I think is eventually gonna get the best of LSU. And I think LSU, I think Lane Kiffin out coaches Brian Kelly, considering LSU's wonkiness this year. So I'm gonna take Ole Miss to win it.
Okay.
I think Ole Miss is gonna win. I think we get a walk off. I think we get a walk off in a shootout. Either that or the opposite, where LSU is the last one to go for it, and Ole Miss gets the much needed stop at the end of the game. So either way, I have Ole Miss winning this by 6.
Okay. Well, with that pick, that gets us on
That
to our
covers that.
final game. Game of the week.
Game of the week, folks. Game of the week, folks. Beep, 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 beep. Pow, pow, pow. And we're at the 46-minute mark. We're still under an hour.
Oregon. And
Oregon,
Ohio
Oregon,
State.
Ohio State. Yes.
The Ducks versus the Bucs. Eyes.
The Ducks and the Bucs. Yes, sir. And they're playing in Eugene, which
Yep.
I don't care what people say. I don't think it's that special of a place to play. I think Oregon, just because they're such a popular program, that they just kind of get the secondary glaze for
I don't know. With
Eugene.
all
I
that
don't think
green, it's
Eugene's
hard to
that
see
hard
where
to
the
place.
field starts and ends, man.
Yeah, maybe obscuring your vision in that sense, but I don't think Eugene's all that crazy. But I mean, home field advantage is still important, and I think Oregon
Yeah,
fans can still rock the
I think I
house.
got. I mean, I got my pick here, so I know who I'm going with.
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, we're already past the 45-minute mark. We can keep it under an hour, so let's talk a little bit about it.
Can we keep it
So-
under an hour? Can we?
Ohio State, it doesn't matter at this point. We're already past 45-minute mark anyway.
I'd rather not pass an hour, so let's do this.
We're not going to pass it. But Ohio State and Oregon, both. Ohio State's number 2, Oregon's number 3. Look, we can't get to the game of the week and not talk as much as we did about the other teams. But
It's not much to talk about. They both suck.
well, this
That's a
is the
joke.
thing. This
My
is the thing.
apologies, Oregon and Ohio State fans.
Don't apologize, bro. They ain't played nobody. We're gonna see what you fellas are made of, okay? The Bucks and the Ducks, we're gonna see what y'all are made of.
The Ducks
against each
have
other.
played somebody, in my opinion. I think Boise State is a somebody.
That's true. That's true. Ohio State, they have not played anybody. I'm not going to say they're overrated, though, because truthfully, watching the film and knowing what they have on their team, the roster and the coach and everything, I think their schedule so far has just been business as usual. I think they're still one of the top 3 teams in the country. If nothing else, definitely top 5. And I think they have one of the most talented rosters, both defensively and offensively. The skill positions. Ohio State is loaded at the skill positions. You've got Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith, wide receivers. You've got Travion Henderson and Judkins at running back. You've got Will Howard passing the ball, which when you have all those weapons around Will Howard, all he needs to do is just be a good collected passer. They have a great pass protection, not that they've really played much of anybody with a pass rush per se yet. Ohio State's 2 biggest strengths are their rushing defense and their rushing offense. Ohio State is a true Marty Ball team this year. They've given Will Howard great pass protection, which is important because Oregon has a great pass rush. Oregon's D-line is dangerous. Ohio State's offensive line is great. They block well, they protect well. Oregon, on the other hand, you want to talk about what you think about Oregon?
I think Oregon's a good team. I think they're a great team. Uh, Obviously, we're going to bring up Will Howard, and we're talking about skill position. We can't just sit here and act like Oregon doesn't have fantastic players at the skill position. Jordan James is a fantastic running back. He's already over
Oh
half
yeah,
1,000 yards. He's averaging 6.3 yards a carry. They got Tez Johnson and Trayshawn Holden and Terrence Ferguson, who Terrence Ferguson and Trayshawn Holden are both averaging over, or well, okay, so I believe Holden is averaging like 14 yards a reception, and Ferguson's averaging 16 yards a reception. So they got the long game. They got receivers who can get downfield and catch the ball. Dylan Gabriel's passer rating is right there at Will Howard's. In fact, Will Howard just got one more touchdown. That's the only reason his is even higher. Dylan Gabriel has more yards, like 200 more yards passing. So, and I am with you. I think I Ohio State, I think, is like number one in pressure and like QB pressure in the country. But again, they haven't played an O line that knows it's the difference between a football and a soccer ball. It's like I just I don't know. It's like that's what I'm
nice.
talking about. It's so hard to really gauge Ohio State, even somewhat Oregon, because of competition. This is why I'm so frustrated with the way Ohio State set up their schedule. This is ridiculous that we're 7 weeks in, and I still don't know if I can trust Ohio State. Sure, they've gotten business done, but we say the same thing. Everyone wants to argue for Ohio State, but last year in Georgia's crappy schedule, they're like, "Oh, well, you're getting it done, but who are you really playing?" It's like, okay, I'm gonna say the same thing for Ohio State. You got a crappy schedule this season. You're getting it done, quote unquote, but you haven't played anybody. Oregon got it done against a team. It was tough, but it was an early game of the season, and it was a good team in Boise State, and they got the win.
Uh,
They pulled out and they won
And
it.
it's and speaking of that game, though, it's important to note that um, Oregon's they're look at what Boise State's rushing attack and Genty did to Oregon. And maybe they just caught them off guard because it was early in the season and they didn't really know Boise State was going to have what they had going. But Ohio State's rushing attack against what is a sus rush defense from Oregon, I have a feeling Ohio State's going to run the ball pretty well. I think the best Oregon does on defense is they get to Will Howard. I think they're going to force Ohio State to rely on the run game because I think Will Howard is going to go down multiple times. I think he's going to be running for his life from that Oregon defensive front. So Ohio State's, I believe they're going to rely on the run game. So the
We'll have
question
to
for
see
me is,
because the only team that
can
really
Oregon
broke
stop that run game?
the only team that really broke that dam for Oregon running wise was Boise State, and they've got Ashton Junty. I mean, the dude's ran over 1,000 yards already.
But that's what I'm saying. We're talking about a comparable talented rushing attack with Henderson and Judkins. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
I disagree. Boise State, obviously, I just because I don't think Ohio State has that talent at running back. Judkins is great, but he's no Ashton Junty. And I know
I
we
don't know,
talk about
man.
competition and all, but you don't. But we talk about competition. Okay, hold on, no. Boise State, you want to say what you want to, but Junty is over 1,000 yards rushing, and you can say what you want to about argument of well, who have they played? Okay, well, who has Ohio State played? Ohio State is a top five, top three team with a great O line, and yet Judkins still hasn't broken over 1,000 yards in 5 games against the defensive lines they've been playing.
I
You
think
would think
attempts
they
is
would.
important though. I think attempts is important though because if Boise State, it seems that that's all they have. So obviously they're going to do that more than anything. I think Ohio State is really trying to get Will Howard's wheels in motion, and I think Ohio State tends to pass more anyway. Um, I think attempts is a good thing to think about there because I don't think Boise State does anything but run the ball. So it's like
I mean, they
but
definitely pass it some too.
I think it's still important to note, can Oregon stop their rushing attack? Because I think Ohio State's strong point is their rushing attack. But then at the same time, if you can't get to Will Howard, Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith are going to make you pay for it,
You
and
can
that's
go
just
by
how it's going to be.
carries. You can go by carries as well. Yes, Junty has way more carries, but at that point, you got to go by average, though. Junty is averaging almost 11 yards a carry,
That's
which is
true. I mean, Junty
monumental.
has the best numbers in college football right now, and I mean, I
I
think
mean,
his
it's some of the
performance
best I've ever
against
seen in
Oregon says a lot.
history. The
But
dude is on like he is on route to literally breaking every rushing record in I mean 5 games, bro. 5 games he's over 1,000 yards.
here's the
That's less
thing.
than half the season, and he's already half of the most in history. Like
But here's the thing. I think what's going to throw a wrench in it for Ohio State is Dylan Gabriel.
I
I
was
don't
about to
think
mention that
playing a
because
quarterback as dynamic as Dylan Gabriel with the talent
and Gabriel
that
has been
Dylan,
in this position before. He went out and he
right.
beat Texas. So, last season,
So
a
I think
highly
that's
ranked
going to
Texas
throw a
with a
wrench in
not
Ohio
great
State's
Oklahoma
plan.
team. So imagine, let's see what Gabriel can do to a big team on a big team now.
But
So,
what I've seen from Dylan Gabriel this season is Oregon has not protected him all that well, and although he's very athletic and dynamic, you're gonna have to protect Dylan Gabriel against that. You're gonna have to come
yeah,
up with some good schemes against Ohio State's front. And I've seen Dylan Gabriel, he likes to force the ball sometimes. You cannot turn the ball over against Ohio State. You can't
no,
do
he's
that.
not going to do
So
that. But I mean, he's forced it, but he's also only thrown 3 picks the entire season. So, I mean, which is the same Will Howard's throwing. So I'm not super worried about turnovers as much as I think I think Will Howard is going to get a taste of that Oregon D line, all while having to deal with the Eugene crowd. So I think Ohio State's really going to struggle. And I guess I'm actually just going to go ahead and make my
so what
pick
do you think?
now. I think Oregon's going to win outright. I'm taking Oregon to
Really?
win outright. Yeah. So I think it's going to be. It's a small upset. I mean, I think you can consider this a pick'em game because the line was, I think, 3.5 in favor of
I mean, it seems
OSU.
like a pick 'em because it seems like they're very close,
But
neck and
I
neck
think
from the eye
D
test and what we
line,
can tell.
I think pressure, and the crowd gets to Will Howard. I think this is a team in an environment. Well, obviously, this is an environment, and not just Eugene. I'm not just bragging on Eugene. I just mean like including the type of team he's playing. This is a get after it and go. This is Dan Lanning we're talking about. He's all about pursuit. They're not going to let Will Howard get away easily. So I think Oregon's going to really give Will Howard a hard time, and I think Oregon's going to win this outright. So, and
I would say Oregon wins by 3. I agree. I think Oregon takes it because be that as it may, Ohio State, it seems like Ohio State is more complete in more positions. Um, even with that being said, um, speaking of teams and positions, I forgot to mention as far as Penn State and USC is concerned, Penn State does not seem to have a kicker at all. They just can't kick field goals, it seems, in moments when they need to. So not to backpedal too much, but that's important to keep in mind on that USC game if it comes down to a
yeah,
field goal
I
matchup.
just I
But
just think Dylan Gabriel is really like because I think both quarterbacks are going to get pressured pretty hard, and I think Gabriel is the one who's going to come out on top of the pressure.
right, obviously a quarterback with the athleticism and dynamism as Gabriel is going to prevail in a situation where we're playing tag with the quarterback, right? And I think that's what this game's going to be defensively, playing tag with the quarterback. And if Jordan James, we talk about Ohio State's rushing attack, but if Jordan James can get loose, like if Oregon can block well enough for him, Oregon could probably gash Ohio State on the ground. But I think these teams right now, as far as the eye test is concerned and the film is concerned, are too close to just like say who's completely better.
Yeah, I agree. But
So I
I think what I was saying is that I think Oregon's D line just shows up a little bit more, and I think because of the differences, I think Oregon has the more dynamic quarterback. I think that's going to be the scale tipper. So
scale tipper. Sorry, Bucks, but these Ducks, they got you this time. We got Oregon winning in Eugene by 3 points.
yeah,
Game of the week. We're gonna see. We see what these teams are made
yeah,
of. See what they really got going this
yep.
season.
We got all
So
our predictions there.
got all
Let's
our
see
predictions in
how they
at the
go.
59-minute mark.
Oh,
So
Well,
So
we'll
let's
see
go
what
ahead and
happens. See how correct we actually are at the end of the season. I'm confident in our picks, though. So, but
yeah.
I did the intro. You want me to do the outro as well?
I mean, sure, we covered everything. We need to get out of here, bro. We went
Yeah,
way
we
over
do.
time
It's
anyway,
late in the
as
day,
always.
afternoon. I got to get packing up.
All
All
right.
right. Well, thank you guys for watching. We're gonna try and get, as soon as we can, a reaction episode out after these games happen. Hopefully they're all great games, and hopefully our predictions are actually right. So I guess this has been Seth Big L and Scoopity Whoopin Score, aka Cam and
Scoopity whoop
Chase.
and score.
The Talk-On Show, Week 7, picks and previews and picks. There we go. So thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next episode.
Be looking out for subscribe and be looking out for the reactions and re-ranks episodes coming up after this weekend. Let's go watch some good college football, guys. Peace out, fellas. Go Ducks.